We welcome our friends from the Concord Food Co-op. Leslie's here from the co-op.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Listen, as we close in to the holiday season, there's probably nothing worse than a passing that happens. I've lost a brother. I lost a mother-in-law right in the holiday season. But there is wellness at the end of life, and I've also had some, and that those were very sad around the holidays, but it was more about us. Really, I've had some great experiences helping people to pass along at the end of life. And that's the real wellness we can take.
Yeah, we're really excited just because, we talk a lot about wellness in different stages of our lives on this show. And all of a sudden we were thinking you can have a lovely and perfectly healthy and well end of life too. And so the definition of what is wellness and even what is the end of life, that could just be a phase, like when you're in the last 20 years of your life, and just how do you keep yourself well. And I think our guests have a lot of great stories and information just sort of about how we can all chip in.
Well, let's jump right in. Joining us here today, along with the Concord Food Co-op, Pam Stohrer, who's an end-of-life doula.
Yes.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
Very nicely
That's
done.
good, because Leslie did a great phonetic job for me here, spelling everybody's out and how I'm going to say this. But you've received end-of-life doula training and certification from the Larner College of Medicine. You're also a therapeutic musician playing Celtic harp at medical facilities. That is a great and wonderful thing. Evelyn Eddy is here, a spiritual care counselor with the Concord Regional VNA, an ordained minister in the United Church of Christ. One of her favorite parts of her job is listening to people tell stories at the end of their lives. And we'll jump into that. And Lisa Challender is here. She's a volunteer coordinator with the Concord Regional VNA, responsible for recruiting, training, and supporting the agency's 100-plus volunteers. Not a small job. Ladies, all of you, good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Share with me a positive story. So many people it's almost a stigma. I don't want to talk about the end of life. I want to talk about, me living here. And I don't even want to have those conversations. It's really kind of important that we have those conversations at some point.
Yes, definitely. A lot of the work that the Concord Regional VNA does is around starting those conversations because in this day and age, it's just kind of taboo sometimes. And so at the agency especially, we try to encourage our patients and families to have those difficult conversations. I know Evelyn is very much involved. She can share with you what she does when she talks to patients and families.
Well, let's share. How about give us a first-time experience, like somebody going through a close member of the family coming to the end of the life, and they're dealing with it for the first time. How do you help kind of walk them through it?
Well, you spend a lot of time listening is really what this is all about, is listening to where people are and who is the person who is dying. Is this someone who has lived a long, rich, and full life that you can celebrate, or is it a lot more challenging? And so you need to find out where that family member is coming from and just support them wherever they are and encourage them to just take it in small steps. This is huge and overwhelming for anybody.
When that moment comes, it can be completely overwhelming. And I don't know what the first step is I can take, and I can see people being that way.
Absolutely true. And so we talk about keeping themselves well and healthy so that they can support their loved one. Make sure you rest, diet, and exercise. Do all of these things so that you don't become completely overwhelmed by the snowball of need that's coming at you.
Right. And we reach out to the entire when the end of life is coming. How important is it that the entire family's around?
It can be very important. It's important to most of our patients. When I ask my patients, what are the things that give you meaning and purpose in your life? Family is absolutely the first thing that they mention.
Oh, so nobody says, please invite all my people from work?
No,
they don't.
No one has said that.
So in the end of life, what really matters, now how hard we worked during life, it's not all about work.
It's not all about work, although, coming second, what kind of work you did.
Yeah,
and I was just thinking this morning how proud some people are to simply have been able to work.
Right, absolutely.
Put a roof over the head of that family, put food on the table.
Yep.
That was a vital important of who they are, but it comes back to family.
Right. Because even though they worked, they were working to put food on the table for the family and a roof over their head.
Exactly right.
Wow.
So that's who they want there.
And I suppose patients would probably be concerned somewhat about legacy. How was my life? How did I do? And please tell me.
That's part of the work we do as spiritual care counselors and as our whole team in hospice is listening to people put together those pieces of their lives and find the meaning that was in it and talk about what they're passing on to the next generations.
Wow. And again, these are all concerns to the person that's facing end of life.
Yes, and when Evelyn was just mentioning that, there's lots of stories that the volunteers have to tell with the patients that they're working for. And while family and caregivers are very important to our patients, we do have volunteers that actually go in to provide companionship to patients and respite for their family members. So in wellness, our volunteers are able to provide some respite for family members so that they can get out and have that cup of coffee, get their hair done. And our volunteers also do a lot of legacy work. And so a couple of stories, really quick stories. We have a lot of veteran volunteers that work with our veteran patients and
that's specific.
Correct.
That's on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we match up veterans that work with our veteran patients. They always appreciate talking to someone that's been there and, in the same experiences, talks the same language. And we had one volunteer share a story about a patient who he was visiting with, and he was telling stories about his experiences, and his daughter was in the other room, and she overheard the conversation, and she came in afterwards and said, gosh, I have never heard my father say those things, and thank you so much for that. So a lot of legacy work. Our volunteers help write biographies. They help write articles for magazines. One patient recently, finding meaning and purpose, she's on hospice and she wants to make things to give to others. So we have volunteers going in and helping. She made these little teddy bears so that we'll be sharing
that's
those.
Adorable.
So really that's wellness.
Yeah.
How do you want to live out your life? You want to know that you've made a difference in this world. That's one thing that's, I think, universal with patients. They want to know they made a difference.
And it's funny, like having visited the hospice house and, from my perspective, the first time I went in, I don't think I expected to feel such like beauty.
Right.
You can actually sense it that they're, maybe people at their end of life, but they're well in another way, and
right.
So I feel like you guys must experience it often
All
as
the
you're
time.
there.
Yeah.
But even in the few times I've been there, you get this energy that is maybe not what you would expect.
Wow.
You know?
And again, I suppose the uninitiated would think, well, it's going to be sad and it's going to be dour and everybody's going to be bumming. When really, if you turn that positive light on, you almost can bring a closure, more so than if you just left it up in the air.
Absolutely. That is so often what does happen. We have lost my train of thought. We have so many people it is sad. Their families are sad, but the families are also celebrating what a life this person lived and the light the spark that is still in them as long as they're there.
Right.
And they just want to be in the presence of their loved one and that spark.
And I was going to say, and the spark comes from having people around them that really mean everything.
Exactly.
Everything to them.
And I think too, like some of the things I noticed the volunteers at the hospice house is the pet therapy, which you can speak to stories about that, but just having
there's nothing
animals
more,
come in,
yeah,
and then even music therapy. And I know Pamela, you do some of that with some of your clients as an end-of-life doula, and some of those therapies. I don't know if you want to talk about some of the work that you've done with your clients.
Well, I am going to talk about that. And let's think. As purpose of explanation, I'm going to reference a made-up story about you, as long as you're comfortable with that.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
You live in California. Your mom lives here in New Hampshire. She's on hospice care because she has 6 months in the best case scenario to live, or let's say 180 days. You want that 180 days to be what your mom chooses, and you want her to live the best life possible until her very last breath, until she leaves this world. Now, as a doula, you could help with documentation. Does a person need help filing a DNR? Do you need end of life, maybe a will, power of attorney, power of medical attorney? There are so many documents that you might want help with. In addition, a doula can offer so many personal things that the client will choose. Do you want help making legacy documents for your grandchildren? Do you want to FaceTime with your daughter across the country and you're not really knowledgeable about that?
Right.
Do you want therapeutic music? Would you like me to come and play the harp at your bedside? Would you like me to download a playlist of the songs your mother loves? And we'll get a little Bluetooth speaker, and that will play in the background anytime. I should say right up front, I think the most primary job of a doula is to provide companionship to the person at the end of life. And companionship will be different for every single client.
Right. It's an individual thing. It's not a black and white
Definitely.
every time.
I mean, do you want help with cremation services, green burial, home funeral? Is your mother bothered by the clutter in the kitchen sink? And that would be my job to go in and help clean up that clutter.
So as for me, living in California, basically, you're sort of looking out for my loved one in
Just
that
so.
scenario. And that's mostly what do you find that most of your clients are actually, that's the situation where they're maybe away from?
No. That's a really good question. But no, my clients are usually right here in the area. I have a website, thistlewooddoula.com, and your listeners are welcome to go on there and see there's such a broad range of services that a doula could offer.
And again, really to bring as much comfort as possible, because nobody wants to see anyone in pain. Nobody wants to see everybody saddened, because it really can be a celebration. I remember when I lost my dad, we had a cassette player with Irish cassettes, like 5 of them in rotation that were playing the entire time that we were visiting there with Dad while he was passing. But he was so comforted by that. And he was so comforted by the people around him. And again, if there's any way to bring comfort, if somebody's got a 6-month diagnosis, you're not going to spend the rest of your life sitting in a chair waiting for that final door to open up.
Just so.
Yeah, you really need to do what it is you need to do at the end of your life. And I think everybody needs to support that.
That idea is, I think, pretty new in the country.
I know.
End-of-life services are such a big deal now. And you can Google, New York Times has wonderful articles about end-of-life and about doula in particular. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't say right now, the services of a doula are strictly non-medical.
Right. That is that is correct. And no, but again, comfort is a wellness thing as opposed to medical.
Right. And all the information like you were talking about too. I mean, something that I have been reading more about just is green burials, and like there are options. It's sort of, and I think a lot of your work, Pamela, is presenting options to people like in that, of next steps of.
Well, it's part of the overwhelm. What do I do now?
Right.
And the average person, it was new to me when I was first studying at UVM. You can have your cremated remains turned into jewelry, turned into a paperweight, sent into outer space. There are so many things that might give your family member comfort if they know that there's a legacy, that there's something going on after they leave this world.
Right. And again, that I'm still going to be here even if I'm not here anymore.
Just so.
Yeah. And again, I think it's right for people to feel that way before they take that next step.
And you must see a lot, and especially in the harp, playing the harp for people. Like, I think, do you see, can you visually see a transformation when, with music therapy? I've seen it in different situations, but you're firsthand.
I'm going to just do a little definition thing here. Music therapy is when you use music, the patient is involved, and you're working, let's say, towards a goal. If you think of Gabby Giffords, who is learned to speak through the use of music therapy. Therapeutic music, on the other hand, doesn't really involve any patient participation at all.
Right.
It's live acoustic music at the bedside.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I hope very briefly, I can play in the ICU at Concord Hospital and on the monitor watch people's blood pressure, heart rate, pulse descend as therapeutic music helps to walk them into a quieter or spiritual healing place.
Right.
And when I play for drug-addicted babies born and that are in the NAS nursery at Concord Hospital, the nurses or the cuddlers who are holding the baby will say, Pam, I can feel that baby relax in my arms because I'm playing, let's say, to the mother's heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's familiar for the baby. And there is wonderful documentation from the pediatrics unit at Concord Hospital about the reduced stay of NAS babies and the fantastically reduced morphine administration that's given to those babies. With the use of therapeutic services. This is not just therapeutic music.
Right.
It's Reiki as well.
Okay, awesome. We're talking about wellness at the end of life today with the Concord Food Co-op. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more. Good morning, New Hampshire. 107.7 The Pulse. We are back with the Concord Food Co-op here on Good Morning New Hampshire. We just heard from Pam, who is an end-of-life doula, talking a little bit about the wellness of end of life, which is what we're talking about today. Evelyn and Lisa from the Concord Regional VNA. How important is the spiritual aspect? Because Pam used the spiritual word. And how important is that spiritual aspect to maybe, you don't really force it on people. It depends on what they already feel and what they're dealing with.
This is absolutely true, but we distinguish between spirituality and religion. Many people have a religion that is deeply important to them. Many people do not, but we believe everyone is spiritual. Even if they don't identify it or use that word, they all have something that is central to their lives and their core being and who they are. And we do our best in hospice to keep them connected to all of those things that have given them meaning and purpose.
You're really sort of not just treating whatever illness they're having as hospice. You're really treating the whole kabang, aren't you?
We're treating the whole person and we're treating the whole family because when someone's at the end of life, it is not usually one person walking through this alone. It's everyone who loves them and is connected to them that's going through it as well.
Right. And the whole process is important to the entire family.
Exactly.
And I think the volunteers that I meet along the way, I was a volunteer first myself at the hospice house. And it's like when you come on hospice services, a whole team of people come in and wrap their arms around you and your family. We have spiritual care. We have nurses, doctors, aides, volunteers, therapeutic musicians, social workers. We all come in and support the patient and their family.
Right.
And sometimes patients actually, for a period of time, may actually get a little bit better because now they have all of these services around them and they actually live longer on hospice than they do if they weren't on hospice services.
Well, how many people are thinking, okay, it's the end of my life, but I'm not done and I got to do this and I got to take care of that and I'm worried about this. And once they realize it's going to be okay, that's almost like a benchmark time for them.
Absolutely. And that's part of why it's such a good idea to get hospice involved when you think you might be nearing that end, because if you're worried by all of these tasks, you have this whole team of people to talk with you and help talk you through it and help you prioritize what you need to do. And then the family steps up and says, I didn't know Mom was worrying about that. I can do that.
Right. I know. But again, sometimes mom didn't speak it.
Exactly.
Sometimes it was she just did what mom always does and took care of it.
Right.
But now it's like, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't take care of this. Well, we got it, mom. Don't worry about it.
And sometimes it's easier to break that ice with new people coming in, new people to listen to the stories, to listen to the concerns. And, mom or dad might say, well, I thought you knew that.
Yeah, I know.
And no, the kids didn't know that.
All right, and then the person that's not connected to all of it says, however, here's the option I think that would work best.
Right.
And what people don't also maybe know is that you can call at any time to get a hospice informational visit. You can call the agency and say, I'm not sure if we qualify for hospice, but I'd like to have someone come out and talk. So they can call the
awesome.
Concord Regional VNA and get that information, and someone will come out and talk to them about it and see if that's appropriate for them.
All right, and if they want to find out more online, how can we get to you?
crvna.org. There's lots of information there about our events and community programs. Also, if you're interested in volunteering, which I would be remiss if I didn't make the ask on this show.
Absolutely, being in charge of the volunteers. Yes, that's okay.
You can log on to the website and follow the giving tab and apply online, and we'll get back in touch with you.
And it's a very rewarding thing.
Absolutely.
It's an extremely rewarding thing. And Anne, you experienced that as a doula as well, how rewarding it is that you've been there for a family.
And if you have a certain skill and you think, this is my way of giving back, paying it forward, and maybe when it's my end of life, someone would be there for me as well. There's nothing more fulfilling than what you do for end-of-life services, no matter how you're giving.
Oh, man, that's amazing. Leslie, thank you for putting this amazing show together. And
My pleasure.
as long as we're here, what's going on at the co-op?
Quickly, with Season of Giving, we have a new program with we call Santa's Satchels. You can, for $5, $10, or $20, purchase a meal for Catch's new food pantry.
Oh, that's awesome.
That will be serving families and seniors. So you just walk in, grab a little coupon, a gift tag, and
feel
take it to
good
the
about it.
register.
Feel good
and,
about that.
Yep, we'll drop off a meal.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, stop by the Concord Food Co-op and thank them for the great discussions that we have each and every Friday. Anne, Lisa, Evelyn, thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, you're welcome. And
sharing.
also, I'd just like to mention that tonight our annual Hospice Lights of Life ceremony will be held at the South Congregational Church. It's part of our hospice awareness program. So that'll be at 5:30. This is Friday, December 6th.
Right.
It's on Pleasant Street, South Congregational Church. We hope you can join us.
Oh,
Thank
stop
you.
on by. Stop on by. And if you've heard it this morning, say, hey, listen, I heard you this morning and I'd like to volunteer. But I'd love it if that would happen.
yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you very much. We so appreciate it.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we go.
If you're in the mood for real food, it's Concord Food Co-op.